Joining us now, Eugene Robinson, MS Now political analyst and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, and Miles Taylor, former DHS chief of staff during Trump's first term and founder of Defiance.org. Good morning, gentlemen.
100
what
days.
A great table. We are 100 days out from the midterms. You know, I think we're probably paying more attention right now than the average voter is. And we should not be in the prediction game. But if things continue along the trend lines that we're seeing right now, Miles, with the war in Iran not seemingly intractable, with the president himself saying behind closed doors that he does not see any diplomatic off-ramps, the affordability crisis only simmering even more, gas prices probably going up, economists predicting that this steep price correction is about to take place. What should we expect going into November?
Well, Jackie, for someone who's not in the prediction game, you got some good numbers.
But I was someone who was really a negative Nancy about predictions about the Senate.
Yeah.
And even with the Troy Jackson, Graham Plattner of it all, do you think that's changed the calculus at all?
Without getting into specific races, when you look in aggregate at the situation, I genuinely think that we are seeing Donald Trump mount an absolutely historic get out the vote effort. The only problem for him is he's doing it for the other side. If you look at the data right now, there is a remarkable enthusiasm gap between Democrats and Republicans, and it's largely driven by Trump himself. Donald Trump has made Democrats feel like the fundamental right to vote is at stake. And a lot of folks worry that would result in voter suppression. If people feel like their vote's not going to get counted, they're not going to show up. But almost 3 in 4 Democrats in this country say this is the most important midterm in their lifetimes. Right. Extraordinary enthusiasm about getting out to vote in this election. On the other hand, Republicans, their enthusiasm is very soft this election cycle. Mm-hmm. Why? Well, I'm going to speculate it's because there's been a guy at the head of their party for the past 2 years who said, if you reelect me, you'll never have to vote again. Unfortunately for him, they seem to be listening. They seem to be thinking, maybe we don't need to vote again. This is the same man who weeks ago, on July 3rd, said, if you let me pass the Save America Act, Republicans will win for 100 years. He's telling his side, we don't need you to show up. We got it covered. And he's telling the other side, you have to be there. That's showing up in the data. If that holds until Election Day, it's going to be a rout for Donald Trump.
And he's telling his voters that your vote won't count. He's telling them over and over and over again that they're going to steal the election. So if I'm a voter, why would I vote? If someone is going to steal my vote, why, if China or Venezuela or any, like these random countries that he chooses are going to not make my vote not count, why would I vote? Like, I've talked to Republican strategists who would love for him to stop talking about this, but it's been 10 years and I don't think he's going to. I want to look at a new Emerson poll that goes to what you're saying, Miles. Democrats have a plus 11 advantage on the generic congressional ballot. So basically, for those watching, that means you don't even have a name for a Democrat. So this can be higher or lower in a lot of these races. But at the end of the day, more people want a Democrat to be in Congress where they live than a Republican. 53% on Democrat, Republican 42. That's big. I mean, even with redistricting, that seems like something that's hard.
11-point gap there would mean just a wipeout. I mean, that 11 points is huge. Other polls have it anywhere between, 3 and 11, but it seems to average around 7 or 8, and that's still huge. So obviously, yes, the enthusiasm gap is there. It's very real, and clearly Donald Trump doesn't care about it because he doesn't care about the midterm election because he cares about Donald Trump and what Donald Trump wants. He cares about his ballroom. He cares about, the chandeliers the other night at the Waldorf Astoria, which I guess he wants to steal. He cares about Donald Trump, and he doesn't care about his party. And if Republicans don't know that by now, then they have not been paying attention.
Eugene, is an 11-plus advantage on the generic ballot enough for Democrats to get over the gerrymandering issue that they've been dealing with?
It should be. It should be. I mean, the gerrymander was only partly counteracted by Democratic state legislatures, and so So it did get the Republicans a few seats. But no, if it's 11 points, then that just gets washed out, I think.
If you were going to compare it to something, though, go back to 2018. 2018, Donald Trump, same thing. He's been president for 2 years. He's faced a lot of opposition from the political opposition. The enthusiasm gap back then was like 5 to 7 in a lot of different surveys. And it was a 40-seat net gain for Democrats. It was a blowout. Now, because of gerrymandering, that would likely be tighter. But if the election was held today, you could see 225 to 210 in the U.S. House. You could see a 15-seat, pickup over, what the existing levels are. You could see a big gain for Democrats. But, again, gerrymandering's made those numbers tighter.
Yeah. So, Miles, I want to talk a little bit about some of the election deniers that are on the ballot in some of the purple states. I think Arizona comes to mind, right, where Andy Biggs won the Republican nomination for governor. Now, Biggs is a certified election denier, right? And when I think about 2020, right, Donald Trump talked about that effort as the big lie. And it was a big lie, but it was also a big conspiracy that had multiple people in multiple states. My question for you is this time any different? Like, it feels like we've seen this show before. Carrie Lake, another election denier, got her nomination for, what was that, Senate? Governor, and she lost. Is this time different?
Was also in Arizona.
Right.
A couple things. I mean, one, I think that we should zoom out. In the scope of history, we should always worry when these types of people are major nominees for public office. You go all the way back to before the American Revolution. Some of the big pamphleteers in this country, I'm talking about in the 1750s and 1760s, were writing about one of the problems they saw in London at the time. Yeah. People were denying elections. People were contesting election after election. It was the canary in the coal mine for the parliamentary system in Britain. One of the reasons so many of those men and women said, I'm decamping, I'm going to the United States. They can't even seem to run an election over here. Yeah. Fast forward a couple hundred years here in the United States, we see a similar environment where these people are not being shunned, they're being elevated for public office. I mean, to put it another way, the January 6th insurrectionists were trying to get in the House. Now they're inside the House. Now they're core nominees for public office. Andy Biggs, big advocate for what we were seeing on that day for the prevention of the peaceful transfer of power, now a major party nominee. Here's the other side of the coin, though. He's got to go into a general election. Right. Exactly. He may have won a primary. He may have shown I'm the most radical of the radicals. But he's got to go win over people in Arizona who have one hell of an independent streak. If you go to Arizona, people don't like to identify as D or R in the general election. They've got a big capital I. These are independent-minded mavericks in Arizona. And Andy Biggs is going to face a tough hill to climb to win them over.
So based on what the two of you have just said, it seems like the expectation, is safe to say, is that Democrats are going to pull out some sort of win, at least in the House.
In the House.
If they don't, it does feel like a big part of the conversation, despite all of the sand in the gears that the president has been throwing into the electoral system overall, that Democrats have maintained this sort of underbelly of optimism that there's going to be a surge of turnout because of a reaction to Donald Trump. But if Democrats don't win back the House and there isn't that surge that we're seeing, does it mean that Democrats, Eugene, have to take these structural barriers that the Republican Party has been putting up over the last decade more seriously?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, they can take it more seriously, but what are they going to do about it? That's the problem. If they don't take the House, I mean, they will not gain the power to subpoena, investigate, to do oversight, basically, and stop some of what Trump is trying to do, because they have no such power right now. I mean, they just don't, except in the Senate where it takes 60 votes. So Democrats will have to take a lot seriously if they don't take the House this year, and they'll have to. I'm sure there will be, the usual hand-wringing and the usual introspection about did we run the right candidates? Are we, is the left versus moderate thing? Is the brand, because the Democratic brand is not particularly popular. It's just that it's less unpopular than the Republican.
I wonder, though, if it needs to focus more beyond that, right? More about the conversation of Republicans have just successfully stacked all the courts, done this gerrymandering play, and that no matter how good of a candidate a Democrat runs in a purplish district, these structural barriers are just too insurmountable.
It will require, if that happens, if Democrats don't win the House, despite all of the headwinds, the wind at their back, despite what we've seen over the last 18 months with them winning and overperforming in all over the country, I think it will mean they will actually have to flip the table in how they think about the party. Like, they will have to come up with a much bigger platform. They will have to do things they are probably uncomfortable with when it comes because for a party that believes in institutions, and actually turn into like a tea party of actually where they say the institutions don't work. We don't believe in the institutions anymore.
I will say very quickly, Democrats feel very good about their chances right now, despite all the structural barriers you just said. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, today is in Philadelphia. He is beginning his push throughout the country, and I think you're going to see they feel good about where they are right now. I just want to leave it there because I know we need to get out of the segment.
There's a lot of bad things happening, though, so they should be on their P's and Q's at all times. Eugene and Miles are sticking around.